What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson. I want to get into this MVP race, man. It's been real interesting, and honestly, when I look at the MVP race for this season, I look at it and I'm like, it can honestly go either way. All three. When I key in on the main candidates, I look at Paul George, Giannis, and James Harden. Those are the key guys who I'm like should get MVP. And the more I look into it, like even if I look at numbers and things like that, I'm just convinced that it's honestly a personal preference. It's who you feel should win the most and who you favorite the most. Now, in my opinion, the person who deserves it the most, when I look at the most valuable player, and I think of who is the most valuable player to their team in this entire regular season, I don't want to say it, but he's not the guy I would go with. But like I said again, looking at the most valuable player, I would have to go with James Harden, man. Just because his play has been phenomenal, and not only has he held it down through his teammates' injuries and the whole entire season, but he's been consistent doing it. It hasn't been just points. He's been getting, he put up a few triple doubles during this time period of the season. He's still passing the ball, giving you double doubles. He's doing it all for that Rockets team, especially when Chris Paul and other guys were hurt on that team. And it's like I have to acknowledge how much he's doing for that team, because if Harden was not there, I could only think about how bad that team would be without him. So if I look at most valuable player, I go with him. Now my personal preference, I want Giannis to win. I want Giannis Antetokounmpo to win. And the Greek Freak. I want him to win because his play has been crazy. He's took his game to an entire another level. When he first came in the league, people knew he had the ability to dominate. They knew eventually it could come. But it's at that point of time now where his game is at that point. Like I can dominate every possession if I want to. I will come down court and dunk the ball on anybody on your team if I want to. And that's the kind of play I like. And as Shaq says, that's that he smell that barbecue chicken. And that's that barbecue chicken he smells cooking up. And he plays with that intensity every night, and it's good. And I'm really enjoying the show that Giannis is putting on at this point in time in the season, and he's been doing it all season as well, and he's been consistent. So that's another guy why that's my favorite. That's who I want to win the MVP is Giannis Antetokounmpo. I want him to win it, but I feel like if we're going based on who deserves it the most, James Harden, but I want Giannis to win. And if not Giannis, then I would go with Paul George. He's that third guy. And it hurts me and it makes me happy at the same time. But the reason it hurts me is because I really think people forgot how good Paul George was. I really, truly, honestly believe that people forgot how good Paul George was, especially when he was in Indiana. That man would put on a tear. He played defense. He did his thing when he was in Indiana. And there's no doubt about it. That's no doubt at all. He was balling against Indiana. Even when he was playing against LeBron, when Bron was in Miami, and they were playing each other in the playoffs every time, Paul George always showed himself and proves himself to be just as good as a superstar as any other superstar around during that time period. He showed himself that he was the man, and that Bron wasn't gonna get nothing easy. When Paul George was in Indiana, he showed that Bron wasn't gonna get nothing easy. And because when he got injured, that really hurt him. He had to sit out the whole season. Then he came back last year, didn't have the best season. It wasn't his best. Yeah, it was a little rusty, but it was his first year back. So I mean, I get it. And then people kind of just started to push him more and more off the map. Like, he ain't got it no more. Paul George is done. Oh, yeah, he ain't going to come back playing like he was. And now that he's playing at the level that I feel is even better than when he was playing before, when he was in Indiana, people are acknowledging it again. They act like it's brand new. And act like, oh, Paul George can still play? Where did this Paul George come from? Playoff P. Like man, it's all that everybody's starting to act so brand new. When really Paul George been doing this, he's been doing it for a minute. He's been doing it. Before his injury, he was balling out. He was balling out. And because he got injured, it set him back. And he had to wake people up again. He had to let people know, like, look, I can still give you some buckets now. Don't forget. But in terms of bringing that and his skill set to his team, because the MVP award, one, it's a regular season award, is based on the most valuable player. And it's an argument that you could say Russell Westbrook is the most valuable because he's getting triple doubles and things like that. And I spoke on Russell Westbrook triple doubles, and I don't want to go too much into it again. But truth be told, everybody on that team is helping each other. Westbrook triple doubles is helping Paul George score. Paul George scoring is helping Westbrook capitalize on top of his triple doubles. Because if you get a triple double, it don't mean nothing if you don't win. If you don't win a game, you just got the stat. But because Oklahoma City Thunder has been winning, it helps. It helps his numbers look even better. It helps his numbers look even better. It helps Paul George's numbers look even better. But you take Paul George away, and then it's a little rough. Russell Westbrook might struggle a little bit more, and the team might fall apart. But then again, you look at it the other way around. If Paul George is playing, I know he's been playing great, but you take Russell Westbrook away, who's his point guard and who's been doing so much for that team, then again, that team, it's still arguable that team might fall apart. And that's part of my reasoning of why I say James Harden, based on the MVP, most valuable player, James Harden, based on that definition of most valuable player, you got to give it to James. You have to. You have to, and there's no doubt about it, man. There's no doubt about it. Because if you take James Harden off of that Rockets team, nobody is paying attention to Houston right now. Nobody will pay attention to Houston. I think Houston at what, 6th seed right now? Fact check real quick. Yep, they at 5th seed. Okay, I wasn't too far off. Fact check real quick. They at 5th seed. Houston is at 5th seed right now. Only about 2 games from 4th seed in Portland. 3 games away from 3rd seed, which is Oklahoma City Thunder. But you take them away, man, their record is horrible. You take Harden away from Houston Rockets? Especially when Chris Paul was down and all these other players was getting hurt on the team. They damn sure would have had to have played Carmelo Anthony. They wouldn't have had no other option. If you take James Harden away and Chris Paul was hurt like he was, yeah, they would have had to play Carmelo Anthony. And they would have had to let him, they would have had to test him and see what he still had left in the tank. If James Harden was on a different team or if he wasn't there. But as far as I know, regular season, talking about most valuable player, James Harden is right there. He's damn near the definition of most valuable player in this regular season so far. And I know when I talk about Harden, I always talk about playoffs and things like that, of how he disappears. And that's one of the reasons why he's not my exact favorite player and things like that. That's one of the reasons. But I try not to look at that right now because it's a regular season award. And it's speaking of most valuable player. Now, it's a lot of players in the league that's valuable. But, and it's possible you can make that argument with Giannis Antetokounmpo as well. And you take him off the Bucks fall apart. But, man, when I look at that roster with the Rockets, and then I take away James Harden, that's horrible, man. I don't even know who their next star will probably be Eric Gordon. That will be their next star, Eric Gordon. If James Harden was to lead that team, or if he wasn't playing during that time, and Chris Paul was still hurt like he was, I don't think Eric Gordon was hurt anytime during the season. I'm not positive about that, but I don't think he was. But their next best player will be Eric Gordon, and he's a 6 man. He's a 6 man in this. Oh man, that team is so unhealthy without James Harden. I'm looking at the roster right now. It's just so unhealthy without James Harden. Jeez. I don't know what that team would do without James Harden, literally. So it's hard for me to pick anybody else. But the Bucks, they got a little bit of squad. We know Oklahoma City got a little bit of a squad, things like that. And I may be sleeping on some other people who may pop back up before the season is over and things like that about who could possibly win MVP and make another strong pursuit during the second half of the season. Yes, it's possible some more names might pop up. But other than that, no, man, I say it has to go to James. If I'm being honest with myself and just honest in general, I don't want James to win it because I'm favoriting Giannis. I enjoy watching Giannis. He's entertaining, and he's taking his game to another level. But if we're being honest about it, you take Giannis off that Bucks team, they have a fighting chance in the Eastern Conference. They have a fighting chance with Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Aaron Brogdon. They have a fighting chance. Eric Bledsoe is there. George Hill. They have a fighting chance. You take Giannis off that team, maybe they're not a favorite to go to the conference finals anymore, things like that. But that team won't fall apart as bad as the Rockets would. And that's really the same thing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. You take Paul George off that team has a fighting chance. Has a fighting chance to at least get to the playoffs. Westbrook can get you to the playoffs. He might not get you out of the first round, and he might not take you to the finals or conference finals, none of that, but he'll get you to the playoffs. He'll make sure y'all there and show your face. But with Harden, I can't promise that. That team is just too bad, especially when they have injuries with like Chris Paul and things like that. Injuries is going on. James Harden been doing it all season, been holding it down. So I think it's only right and it's fair if you go off of the most valuable player MVP award that's also a regular season award, it has to go to James Harden. That's no doubt about it.